So the next step is to mark the buttonholes. What you're going to do is just make sure, first of all, that if you have a woman's jacket that you're working, putting your buttonholes on the right-hand side, so that it'll be right over left. If you're doing a men's jacket, it will be the other way, the left over the right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to try the jacket on or put it on the dress form and mark roughly where the buttonholes are. And then you want to mark, we're always at first going to be thinking about dead center. So I'm marking, in this case, just generally where the button is going to go. Then I'm going to put where the last, so I pinned this top one first, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin the last one. And then what you'll do is you'll take a measurement between the first button and the last button and divide it by the number of buttons you have. So in this case I have 3 buttons because my buttons are big. I'm only going to put 3 buttons down the front, so I'll need 3 buttonholes. So I simply took the measurement from here to here and divided it in half. You may have to go more. And then I've marked where the second one is. So that's the first step. Also, just as a note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out my buttonholes in a different color because I want, the pink is remember the pink basting for me means that has to come out. This will come out too. I think I'm going to pick a more contrasting color than this, maybe even white, but you want to make sure for your buttonholes that you do another color altogether. Okay, so let's just start by marking where your buttonholes go. To determine the distance from the edge of the jacket to where your buttonhole will start, what you want to do is take your button measurement and divide it in half and add 1/4 of an inch. And that will give you the measurement that you need. Now, you need to think through your buttons. So this button that I have is a covered button. It's covered with velvet. It's measuring 1.25 inches, but actually my button is only 1 inch here because of the fullness of the fabric. So I'm going to go, in my case, with a 1 inch measurement. And I'm going to take 1 inch, divide it in half, which gives me 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to add 1/4. So the distance from the edge of my jacket to where I'm going to put my first basting line will be 3/4 of an inch. The next step is going to be to take your ruler and take it from the edge. And again, I've rolled this out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. But you can take your ruler and from the edge of your jacket, you're going to measure what you just determined from the little button measurement video from the last few minutes. You're going to take that measurement. In my case, it was 3/4 of an inch. So again, it's half the button plus 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just chalked in first 3/4 of an inch all the way up the jacket. So I measured up and chalked it in. And again, remembering, I chalked it lightly, and remembering that my chalk is rather thick, I'm now going to baste on the right-hand side of the chalk mark. Okay, so I'm going to run, in this case I chose yellow, to run a basting stitch up my 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the jacket. So now I've determined the right-hand placement of the right-hand side of my buttonhole. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cross that with a stitch, again, where the dead center of the buttonhole goes. So I'm going to cross right over that first stitch, the first edge stitch here. Again, making sure that it's exactly where I pinned it. I'm just picking up the edge of the fabric because again, I don't want to go, I want to make sure I don't go all the way through. And I'm going to go over a little bit. So I'm going to do that for all my buttonholes. I'm going to run a perpendicular line from my first placement line of my buttons. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sample, because I know that this buttonhole worked perfectly for my buttons, and I'm just going to remeasure it. If you had problems with it, now's the time you can make an adjustment, but I've gone ahead and measured this, and I see that for me, because I have a big button, it's exactly 1 inch and 3/8. So then what I'm going to do is not to use the chalk, because this measurement really needs to be perfect, so I'm using pins. So I've measured from my 3/4 inch inline over the 1 inch and 3/8, and I've put a pin, and now what I'm going to do is to go through and to baste a line up where the pins are. So again, I'm going to follow my pin. The more it's all this tailoring, hopefully you learned this semester, the more time and precision you take with making a garment like this, the better it comes out. So I'm now going to take this and go ahead and baste all the way up. And again, you don't even need to baste all the way up. You can stop it. You've got your cross. You can actually stop it there. You can go all the way up, or you can do it this way, where I'm just stopping. But I am trying to get exactly in where the pin is. And then you're ready to put in your buttonholes. You can go back to your buttonhole video. Follow it closely. Take another practice run if you want to do that before. Again, don't forget you're cutting into your jacket, so you want to be as precise as possible. So if you need a little bit more practice, I recommend you do that. But now I can get the pins out of the way. I don't have any question as to where my buttonholes are going. I'm just feeling like it's picking up too much there. And one more little tack here. Thread is a great way to tack when sewing, because typically it stays in, but I can get rid of my pins now, and I know that's exactly where my 3 buttonholes are going to go.